You opened it? Mom? Yeah, I'm not switching schools. All my friends are at Gotham North.
God, you are so embarrassing! Didn't I tell you that I have this under control?
Turns out I didn't get fired. I got promoted, so yay!
Was reaching that super weird point in a relationship where you're like, do we love each other? Or are we just together because we're lonely and don't really want to go out and see other people? Just like the merry-go-round effect where like you guys break up and get back together, then break up again. Just like the really weird part where you know you shouldn't be with this person because they kind of treat you bad, but you love them.
All of my friends are going to Narbonne, so like I'm like hot. Like, no, I don't want to. I'm going all the way here. I'm like, what? Like, this is way too early. Like, I was 17 at the time. It was just weird. I still went to school that day and everything. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just like, yo, you won't believe what happened. Like, we're going to this.
Another powerful woman trying to prove that she hasn't gone soft after giving birth. I call that the placenta ceiling.
Well, there must be some adult in charge of her. Oh, yes. The artist.
You, zip it now. Had enough of your babble on the right in.
What do you want? So, you've come to your senses and want to work for a real chef, huh?
I could see this piece of wire. And without even thinking, I reached my hand inside to the dog's mouth and fished out that piece of wire because I was afraid the dog was going to swallow it, and I'll be darned if I'm going to let a dog swallow a piece of wire. And that's just so exciting. All I have to do now is listen. Full tilt boogie, I'm in this world. That's my process.
I mean, the walkie-talkies, probably, because they're so... I've always wanted, like, I got walkie-talkies the other day. It's a weird, like, I remember when I was younger, I was dying for a phone. Like, I would make, like, presentations on, like, Google Slides, and we'd make posters and everything. Just, we'd have, like, business plans and pie charts to try to get a phone.
People in that age range had that when they were younger, and my dad used stuff from that time. And I just always think about, like, when I'm older, I hope I'll be able to watch, like, a show that has stuff from when I was a kid.
I worked on this after I left. I didn't really know exactly what to do next. I had all these ideas, but I didn't know if they all fit together or what. And so I just kind of, like a crazy person having a breakdown, just like wrote all these ideas, and I didn't care how long or short they were. And then I thought, well, maybe I could make this into a book for people with short attention spans. You need some obstacle to justify a love song, or you never would have needed a love song. No one's just at this perfect stage of love, staring in each other's eyes, singing a love song to each other. And if they did, it would be the sappiest love song ever. It wouldn't be any good. What you need is a need for a love song.
For me, it was great because I just was surrounded by talented people who worked really hard and, you know, were successful. That to me was more of an indication of how I should work hard than it was anything else, you know. Exciting. I felt, at that time, oh, this is probably going to change things for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the greatest gifts that my parents have given me. They both have a very much like a fuck this attitude, which is like, if it feels right to you, if it's in your heart, if it's worthy, then just do it, you know?
I think I find the most inspiration for writing for me is just things that have happened to me in my life, and constantly doing that, especially when you're boarding. I think when you're writing an outline, you're concerned about the structure of the story and making sure the beats are there. And okay, is this a story? Does it have a beginning, a middle, and an end? Is it clear? Is it making sense? Is it interesting? Is it funny? But I think once you get into then that you're sitting there boarding the story and you're writing all the jokes and you're writing the dialogue, you know, I'll think about things that are interesting to me or things that I spend a lot of time thinking about in my life. And I'll sort of use that to kind of pour into the dialogue and to what the characters are feeling and thinking and stuff like that.
David Bowie said, all art is unstaged. Its meaning is not necessarily implied by the author, by myself. There is no authoritative voice. There are only multiple readings. And that's what I live by.
because I was so in it. It was not cartoons for me. It was like the Twilight Zone. You know, it was always that. And so I loved being able to just see these different worlds that were different from mine, that allowed me to kind of escape where I was during those times. And it just stayed with me.
My preferred response is, tell me more. My preferred response is, how was that for you? My preferred response is, I'm sorry that that happened. What can I do to support you in this process? I think a lot of people, understandably, because the conversation is so new, don't know how to speak into it. And so they choose not to. They choose to erect a wall of silence. But my advice to someone who is wanting to speak into that conversation, because maybe they have a friend or a loved one that they can see is going through something, is to start from a place of, I don't know.
There were key moments that I would tune in for, and that would be a regeneration, because as a child I was fascinated by the concept of a character remaining the same but looking different. I thought that was fascinating, and secondary to that I wanted to see how they would do it technically.
Great, huge amount of love and laughter in my family. I had a great childhood. My dad was a man for his crosswords. He used to pick his dictionary up and he'd pick a word out, read the word and say, isn't this a marvellous word? He had a burning desire for language. And when I was 17, I was in an amateur production of Macbeth, and it toured around the northwest of England, and there was wine, women and song involved in it. I had a small part in it, and I fell in love with the lifestyle, but I fell in love with the play.
Falls into one of his adventures, and then they get on famously and kind of pair up and become a tag team, and kind of educate each other. He kind of opens her eyes and broadens her horizons and shows her what life can be like, and she kind of teaches him about human emotions and morals and basic principles that he has no idea about, and is really not very tactful at all.
Yeah, you know, the amazing thing about this for me is I knew nothing about life in the jungle until I got there, you know? I chose to not read the booklets we were given and not read the sort of guides to surviving in the jungle, because I just wanted to experience it as myself, you know? I think a very important part, you know, of a young man's upbringing is his relationship with his father, you know, and then vice versa, a father's relationship with his son. And this is obviously two relationships that neither of these characters have had.